Happy Monday evening and welcome to the Mindset Hacker podcast with your host, the Mindset Hacker, Jazvinder, or Jazz for short. Thank you very much. And as there are no accidents, of course, we have It Ain't Necessarily So. And this is played by the late Mary Lou Williams. And if you don't know that name, that's the name you need to know. So, why is it not an accident? Well, thank you, Mary. Because what is not necessarily so is what you think. But I'm already getting ahead of myself. So let's back up a minute. So the question really is, well, the question is why? Why? Start with why, as they say. So why do a podcast at all? I've been doing blogging for a little bit, video blogging for a little bit, almost as long, cranking out these memes and one-liners to social media all the time. So why do a podcast at all? And more housekeeping, just bear with me because I'm getting over a bad cold, grappling with some sciatica as well. So there may be moments of, who knows, probably try to avoid the hacking cough on this podcast. But it is a gamble if I can make it through these 15 minutes without doing that. So I'm going to warn you up front. This might be take 87 by the time you hear it. Who knows? So I'll just pull up the music if that happens again and pull the earphones out. See, I have tricks up my sleeve. But anyway, so why do a podcast in the first place? Well, as a creative person, somebody who plays guitar and writes music, writes poetry, you look at different artistic mediums as things that can bring different things out of you. And I think differently when I'm improvising music, or when I'm writing music, or when I'm writing words. If I'm doing content writing for my, there it is, for my day job, or if I'm writing poetry or whatever it might be, or a blog of my own. So I'm curious to see where the medium of a podcast is going to take me. But there's another start with why that's more important, of course, which is why do this at all? What is worth talking about? What is it? It's a valuable use of our time. And that goes back to the title, of course, which is It Ain't Necessarily So, right? So what you think ain't necessarily so. And what I've found in more than in years of teaching things like meditation or doing my own coaching work, but really the years of observing my mind and talking to other people and learning about how they think and realizing that we're not all so different, is that we do a lot of compounding. What do I mean by that? What I mean is things happen, and the things that happen to us are enough as they are without us making them any worse, right? And the mind has a proven track record of taking something good and spoiling it, and taking something bad and making it worse. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean you've got the fear of loss, which is just spoiling the good things in life. And I'm sure if you've been in a relationship with someone who you thought was out of your league, most of us guys have had that experience. I don't know women who've had that. Usually it's the woman that's out of the guy's league, at least in my experience. And I'll just change the subject right now. It's already too revealing. So you think something is too good to last, right? I think we've all had that experience. Well, the fact is, it's happening. The fact is, it's in your life. Who knows for how long? That's not my business to know. It's not yours either, really. But here you are, always thinking about end of the situation hiding just around the corner. Here you are thinking about the boogeyman is going to come take this away from you. And instead of enjoying it, instead of enjoying life, you are consumed with the fear of loss. Or on the other hand, something bad's happening, and what do? You imagine that it's permanent. You imagine that it will go on forever, that it will only get worse, or even worse than either of those things, is you get this idea, you get this idea in your mind that this bad thing that's happening is some kind of fundamental reflection on your character. Now, I'm sure you've noticed these pregnant pauses are not pregnant pauses. These pregnant pauses are me trying to not cough into the microphone. Okay? I warned you in advance. But if it lends me some sort of unearned gravitas in the process, then hey, why should I mess with it? So I think without elaborating further, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. I think you know exactly what it feels like to not just be able to simply enjoy something properly because of fear of things not working out the same way things may have not worked out in the past, or that something going on is not fun, and here you are making it even worse when it wasn't fun to start with. And the second one might deserve some more attention, because that has to do with even negative emotions. Forget about you get a parking ticket and you go, see, I'm a failure. Well, what's that about? All that means is you got a parking ticket. It means you owe the city of fill in the blank. For me, it's San Francisco or Berkeley, X amount of dollars. Or else. Right? Doesn't mean you're a failure. Doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter how many of these things you've gotten. All it means is each one of these things is episodic, right? But your mind is playing games with you. Or, like I said, it's about your feelings too. If you're feeling bad about yourself, you're feeling guilty about something, or you feel embarrassed, or you feel, I don't know, I'll use a big word like ashamed, or self-conscious, or you're angry, or you're impatient, whatever it might be. And those things are unpleasant enough, aren't they? But then you got to go and beat yourself up just for the fact that you're feeling them. So the mind is kind of the mind can do things like this, right? So this is a long way of saying this is really the whole point of what I think is a worthwhile subject for us, and where I start with, which is, couldn't it be that your mind could be your friend in all this? Couldn't it be that your mind could start working with you instead of working against you? Because, again, what I found, and what's been taught by much wiser and more accomplished people than myself, is that the good things in life are a lot more enjoyable when your mind gets out of the way. And the bad things in life are actually not nearly as bad, and sometimes not bad at all, when you stop the narrative about how bad they are, and they're just experienced as a kind of raw phenomenology. Pain is just a sensation. The second that sensation passes, it's over with. But in your mind, is it over with? Are you dwelling on the fact that you can't believe that just happened to you? Or are you celebrating that it's over? You see? So, question what you're thinking. It ain't necessarily so. Ask yourself if there would be some other way to think about this. And that's what we're going to do in this podcast, is we're going to look at a lot of the mechanisms of the mind, a lot of the habitual ways of thinking, and we're going to see if there might be some better way than the conventional way, than the common way, than the way we're normalized to, that could actually play to our advantage a little better. Stop adding to the problems and stop spoiling the good parts. That's basically what we're talking about. So if we can do that, I think we'll be all right. And that's really my chief interest here. So, well, what to say? What to say now? I don't know. Again, this is my first crack at it, and most of this podcast is me being preoccupied, but trying not to cough into the mic. Well, what I would say really is that knowing yourself means making a friend of yourself. And in the process of doing that, you're going to discover all the ways that you are not being, your mind is not being a friend to you. Now, the reason why that's not just some terminal prognosis is that the mind can be trained. The mind is the way it is because at one point it learned to be that way. So we're going to talk about how the mind learns, the different parts of it, and how it can relearn at this stage in life, whichever that might be for you. And it's not going to be just the same as when you were an infant and when you had a unguarded subconscious and everything was soaking up. Now that we're adults, we have to be deliberate about these things. We have to unlearn, relearn, and learn things in new ways so that they get our attention. We have to say things in new ways. We can't just keep repeating the same ideas that we're parent deaf to and think one day we're going to get them. Treat others as the way you would like to be treated, golden rule. Well, sometimes that works, but we've all heard that, and not all of us do it. Well, the people who don't do it aren't the ones who haven't heard it. They've heard it, right? But it takes more than just hearing it, especially if you heard it so often that you stop hearing it anymore. So we need to find fresh ways of saying things that we know to be true, so we can actually hear them again. So these are all the kinds of things that we're going to be concerned with, So that's really what the Mindset Hacker is all about. It's all about making a friend of your mind. So your mind can work with you, can stop working against you. And what I would really say to you is that life is good enough. Other people are good enough. And you, most of all, are good enough. And we don't really need to be in the interest of improving things quite as much as we need to be in the business of not messing with things anymore. There's a concept in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. It's the concept of ahimsa, which means non-violence. And nowhere in these Yoga Sutras, which is really a guide from going from kind of an insensate, bald primate to being Buddha. So quite the journey. And the Yoga Sutras in many ways can take you from that alpha to that omega, all right? But at no point in that extensive list of prescriptions for behavior and habits and conduct, at no point does it say to go act like a saint or go heal people or go be nice. It doesn't even tell you to be nice. It just says, as far as that goes, it says, just stop hurting. Just stop hurting. Stop doing damage. Stop being part of the problem. And what happens is that the organic and inherent and sort of inextricable goodness and beauty and rightness in you will surface all by itself fully. It's fully formed. You don't build it or cultivate it or any of that stuff. You just stop blocking it or harming it, and it sort of just flowers from within you. And if we can all start doing that for ourselves, because you can't really do it for someone else, but if you can do it for yourself, well, then you're one less person pouring gasoline on the fire. And eventually that fire just becomes something you can warm marshmallows on instead of something that, is going to be a problem for the neighborhood, So, well, that's really it for tonight, guys. Someone let Mary Lou carry us out. So my name is Jazz, and this is the Mindset Hacker, and thank you for your time.